Welcome to Plot Twist Radio, the show where creativity, storytelling, and the unpredictable path of the creative life all collide. I'm your host, Erin Egnatz. Creativity doesn't always stay in one lane, and today's guest proves just how powerful it can be when storytelling crosses mediums. In this episode, I'm joined by author and visual artist Riley Quinn, whose work blends fantasy, animation, and deeply human themes of self love and identity. From building worlds through illustration to crafting cinematic prose, Riley has created a storytelling experience that lives far beyond one page. We talk about the inspiration behind Golden Gossamer, the reality of self publishing, and how embracing multiple creative passions can actually become your greatest strength. This is a conversation about storytelling, artistry, and what happens when you stop trying to fit into just one label. Riley, hello and welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for joining me. Can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yes, of course. So, my name is Riley S. Quinn. I am the author of Golden Gossamer. I also wrote the Pendant of Hyacinth trilogy a few years ago. I'm mainly known for my artwork on Instagram. I actually create a lot of artwork and animations there to promote my projects, and that's where I get most of the interest in my books. But I'm really proud of this one. It's my 4th novel. I think it's easily my best so far. It's a romance fantasy. It's really a story not just about romantic love, but also self-love and self-empowerment. And I really hope people will get the chance to check it out and give it a read because so far it's doing pretty well. People are loving it, and I'm very proud of that.
That's gotta be a great feeling. I
It
know
is.
I love it whenever, people are like, "I love your book," it's a rewarding feeling.
It is.
And to your artwork, I was snooping on your Instagram and I was very impressed.
Thank you.
So, for listeners that are just meeting you, do you think of yourself as an author who animates or an animator who writes?
I think it's hard to say because for me personally, the artwork that I create is to elaborate upon the stories that I create. So for me, it's an author who animates. But I think for most people who know me, they think of me as an animator who writes. Mainly because it's easier to access my visual work than my written work a lot of the time because it's free and it's on the internet everywhere.
Yeah.
But I mean, I started in the visual art space. I started with the artwork. I went to school for animation. And the storytelling techniques that I learned studying film and animation and art are actually what I brought into my written work, which is why my written style is very imagery heavy.
So, when you were writing, what was the first image, character, or moment that sparked the world of the Mage King and the Fairy Queen?
That's a great question. So I created them just as totally random characters at first, and then I was like, "Oh, they look kinda cute. Maybe I should put them together." And I created this scene where he was kind of questioning her. It's like, do you see this as a game? Is this something serious to you?" And she was kinda laughing at him, and she was like, "Oh, like, why do you want me to think it's serious?" And the whole dynamic basically blossomed from that. So basically just this protagonist who's a very earnest character and he cares about everything and he wants everything to be great all the time, which goes horribly wrong for him very often, and that's how we have a long book. Versus this, antagonist who's really just kind of going along with it because she thinks it's funny, and then gradually realizing that she genuinely admires this guy for how hard he's trying and how much he actually cares, but she wishes that he would just approach it a little bit differently because she thinks he's not seeing results because he's being too soft, and she's trying to, like, lure him to the dark side, which is really just expressing his boundaries.
There's always got to be one, right?
Yep.
So, fantasy, it's what I write in, it's what a lot of us write in. It can
Mhm.
be crowded. What made you confident this world needed to exist?
I think for me, the things that are very special about my work is that it's very heavily rooted not just in my animation and film background, but in the people that I studied animation and film alongside. I went to school in Atlanta. It was a very diverse campus, lots of international students. And I think being around so many different creative takes, but also different creative perspectives coming from different cultures. It's very important to me to include diversity in my books. I am a white author, but I think that's no excuse for centering exclusively white characters. I'd like to center people from all walks of life. I also just think, the visuals, and I approach my written work as if I'm writing a film. Everything is very cinematic. It's kind of approached shot for shot more so than chapter by chapter. And I think that that gives it a very vivid experience for the reader. That's kind of what I would say makes it special, but really for me, it's just about writing characters that are funny and interesting and messy, and I love a good trope as much as the next, but I also really like subverting a trope. I like having the mysterious fey antagonist be the woman. I like having her be funny and kind of like a goofy cartoon bad guy like Megamind more so than like some Disney villain. Like
Right.
she's genuinely just there for the laughs. Like she's having a grand old time, and then having the protagonist be this very serious, intense, like ready to fight guy, but he's really like, I just want to be a good person. And instead of him having a super tragic childhood, he had a great childhood, and that's why he wants to make a change in the world. So, like, playing with the cliches of the genre and using some of them, but also flipping some of them on their head is what makes it a really fresh and fun experience for me to write this book. And people who have read it have said the same. So, hopefully, it's working.
Yeah, I do believe it is. So, your background in animation clearly informs your prose.
Mhm.
How does thinking visually change how you build scenes?
I think it's actually been a real marvel for helping me with my pacing because I'm not just thinking about what dialogue I need to be exchanged or what plot points I want to hit. I'm thinking if I am this character, because even though my books aren't in first person, you're always experiencing something through some character's eyes. In what order am I taking in the room? Like what is the camera panning over to show me? I actually wrote an essay on this a while back that I'll have to find it. But if I'm entering a chapter and I'm entering a scene through a character's eyes, I'm like, okay, knowing what this character's priorities are, knowing what this character wants from the scene, what are they noticing first? And very often it's not the character opposite them. So I think that having that ability to build out the environment in a very natural way, because that's something you learn a lot about in film school, is like you don't want to be going down the laundry list. A lot of people make jokes about the character description. It's like, I'm a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, mysterious warrior princess, and I have pointy ears, and I have a sword. I actually have 3 swords, but this is my favorite sword. And, like, listen, we all wrote like that at some point. I know I did.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But going to film school and learning about how to really build something out in a way that feels natural and effective, but also is still visually pleasing and fantastical, I think that's been the most effective for making my work and the worlds that I design feel very real.
Yes, I agree. So, what is your writing process like? Do you outline or are you kind of like me and just wing it and we see what happens?
Normally, I do wing it. This is actually the first book that I really sat down and outlined, and I've said this a couple times to a couple people, but it wouldn't have been this solid if not for, my dear friend, Joanna, who was my best friend in college. She's a very great story outliner, planner, and I did all the sticky notes on a big cardboard sheet because I knew I wanted to do it physically on paper. Because 'cause I'm sure like most of us, I get screen fatigue.
Mhm.
And I knew I was gonna be typing the book, so I thought, "Let me use sticky notes while I can." And I took that big cardboard, piece with all the sticky notes on it, and I went to Joanna and I said, "What do you think?" And she sat back and she looked at it and she went, move that one. That one needs to be 3 different notes, and one of them should be over here. Get rid of those 2, they're not necessary." And we just went back and forth like that for, like, 4 hours, and once we had the Joanna approved outline, I was like, "Wait, this actually makes so much more sense. I could totally write this right now." And she's like, "Yeah, that's the magic of outlining." So I guess now I'm an outliner. I never wanted to do it before because I wanted to let the characters drive,
Right.
which for my previous trilogy, which was my first endeavor into writing novels of that length, I think that worked because it was so much more character heavy. But for this book, I'm trying to really build out more world building, trying to go more traditional hardcore fantasy route. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to need some structure or I'm not going to keep track.
Mhm.
So, a little bit of both. I think you need both. Um, I outline the plot points pretty meticulously, but I leave dialogue really loose because I think that happens better when it's just natural on the page.
Yeah, I do agree. So, when you're writing, you get your first draft and then your second draft. How similar does the first draft look to the last draft?
Oh gosh. I feel like I want to say that they're super different, but I really do think that it's just like the first draft is the piece of fabric and the final draft is the embroidery, like, you would still recognize it, but there's all these new intricacies that have been added to give it a little bit more depth. It's like, the spice in the broth. So I just okay, metaphors. No, I feel like, to me, the story seems very similar. There will usually be 2 or 3 major changes.
Mhm.
Like, a character that I did not intend to die has to go. That's a big one. A character that I intended to be a good guy or a bad guy might switch sides because I find it more interesting. But really, I would say the core plot stays pretty similar because one of the first things I decide on is the themes for each character. Like, when I'm creating my outlines and my drafts, the first thing I'll do really is create character, you know, sheets, more or less, and this kind of plays into being an artist, how you would hash out a character, you usually do a lot of visual iterations, and that'll come with a lot of written iterations for me,
Mhm.
but every character gets, like, a key arc or theme that I decide before I write the book. So, like,
Okay.
for Dante, that was gonna be he's gonna learn that sometimes he's going to have to bend his morals a little bit to get the end goal that he wants, and, knowing that his character is pretty consistent through the book, even if his actions may change. And then with, like, the Fairy Queen, it's okay, she's going to learn that sometimes it does pay off to be kind and honest and genuine and vulnerable, even though she wants to play up that she's this, like, mysterious, fabulous, wicked, wicked woman, and she's just not. Like, she's really a person, but she wants to protect herself the same as Dante, and, like, they clash in that way, but they also help each other grow in that way, and I do the same thing for, like, the entire main cast. So I think having that as the base that I can always go back to keeps the overall feeling of the story the same, even if the events change.
Makes sense. Absolutely. So you didn't just stop at the novel, you extended the world through illustration and animation online.
I
Why was
did.
it important for this story to live beyond the page?
I mean, there's a romantic answer and there's a real answer, and the real answer is marketing. The real answer is I have found it to be the most effective to grab people when I show them a scene. Even if a lot of people get confused and they're like, "Is this a comic? Is this a movie? Is this a show? What is this?" I'm like, "Oh, it's a novel." And they're like, "Oh, okay." And sometimes they're excited because a lot of people love to read these days, which is fabulous. I love that it's becoming super popular again with adults.
Mhm.
But a lot of people are like, "Oh, I don't really read. I wanted it to be like a show." And I'm like, "You know what? Maybe you should give it a chance." And then you never know, somebody might start reading because they see something that they thought was in the media format that they enjoyed, and then they give it a chance because they're already hooked. So that's always good. With my first few books, I got a lot of people into them who were like, "I haven't read in years, and it was really fun to get back into it." And then with this one, hopefully that'll happen again. But, it's just overall, drawing is how I figure out how I want worlds to look, which is super important considering that, as I said, I'm very imagery heavy in my writing.
Mhm.
But it's also a really great way to kind of like bounce ideas off of the audience, which, you want to retreat into your cave and write your book and never show anyone, but you have to publish it, which is terrifying. Every author I've ever spoken to is like, there was a stage I didn't want to show this to anybody.
Right.
But for me, it's like the sooner I get over that fear, the better I feel. And what's really a relief is now that the book's been out for a few months, I'm finally able to start showcasing scenes from the actual story that aren't in like the first 3 chapters.
Mhm.
That's been a relief, that's been really exciting, and what's really been fun now, because of that audience relationship I've built so far out from the book's publication date, I have people in the comments who are saying, "I remember these first illustrations and now reading the book, it's so cool to see how far the character has come." Or people who are, like, dropping multi-paragraph analyses in my comments just because they see a drawing of a scene that they liked. That is so special because I try not to read my reviews for a lot of reasons.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so seeing the things that they do wanna share with me in my comments is really special, and it shows me that, they're getting something from the story besides just like, "Oh, cool, these are the people that I saw in the drawings online, that's fun."
Right. Yeah, and I think that's an excellent marketing tool that you have because it grasps people. This past release of mine, I worked with my illustrator to create what the characters look like because I've never done that before, and it helped it sell a lot easier
Oh, yeah.
than just putting it out there with a couple of paragraphs saying, "This is what the book's about." It
Mhm.
kinda gives someone an image, "Okay, so this is what I'm picturing as I'm reading it." So, that is an excellent marketing strategy.
It makes all the difference, it really does. Just everyone is so visual these days because of social media, and I commend you for using a real artist. Thank you. Thank you. I know that authors and artists we're in the anti-AI struggle together.
Oh, yes.
It
Yes.
just it just makes my heart sink a little bit when I see an author use AI generated imagery instead of real artwork,
Yeah.
so thank you.
Yes,
Applaud, applaud.
absolutely. Yes, I love my Tatiana. I found her years ago, and I was like, I'm not letting go.
Yeah.
We're in this together, as you said, so, uh,
Absolutely.
so you chose to self-publish.
Mhm.
What freedoms does that give you
Ugh,
creatively?
so many. I One thing that's really big for me is being able to design my own covers. I have a copy right here, but I think because I market so heavily on my own artwork, having the visuals, continuing from the social media really helps people recognize it.
Mhm.
Being able to choose my own timeline is another huge one, because, knowing that I build out the hype so much on social media before the book's even fully written, I personally would suffer a lot from having to wait 2 years for my book to come out because I just couldn't keep that energy up that long. Like, I've already spent, like, 2 years hyping this story up, which I didn't even realize. It's actually been 3 years now because it's 2026, which is
Yeah.
deeply disturbing. Uh, Gotta love the passage of time.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so not having to wait that long is another big one. I would love to traditionally publish something someday, but this project, I just felt that I wanted to do it myself. I kind of have an idea of how self-publishing works now from my previous work. I have a nice team behind me. I have some beta that I trust, some editors. I have a group that I've done this with before, and I wanted to do it again now that I know so much more.
Mm.
If I was ever going to publish traditionally, that book would be intended to be traditional from the very beginning. And another thing that's nice is I get a larger profit from each book. There's no advance, which is a shame, but as the book continues to sell, I will continue to get the majority of that income, which I can then funnel into further creative projects.
Yeah,
So that's really
exactly. That's why I created my own publishing company because,
I
you do have a lot more freedom that way.
Mhm.
You can Like you said, you can do your own cover, you can choose when you release it versus, you're gonna have to wait until we're ready to
Yeah,
release it, and a lot of times, and this is nothing against a publisher, they'll change the book a lot, and a lot of times it
so
takes the
much.
heart out of it, so, it's a lot easier to do self-publishing these days than it was, 20 years ago, so
It's such a gift.
it is. So what was the biggest challenge in wearing multiple hats? The author, artist?
Oh. Honestly, I mean, I think the biggest thing for me is really just keeping track of emails and comments and, like, troubleshooting more than anything else. I feel like I was raised to wear many hats in a way because, like, my parents growing up, they did a lot of different things, and that was just how they were, and they loved it, and they encouraged me to pursue every hobby I had, and I was in every extracurricular you can think of because my mom heard that that's how you keep your kids out of trouble. So, like, I just feel like I've always been doing a lot of different things, and I was very much encouraged from an early age, just do what you want, what makes you happy, and become good at it. So I think I never had the idea that I needed to limit myself in that way. The only thing that I have to be really careful of is avoiding burnout. But the way that I go about that is I make sure to have hobbies that give me immediate, tangible results, in addition to my hobbies that take a really long time. So, both art and writing, you can have a physical copy. You can have the printed copy of the book. You could print out the artwork. But I really like having something that's just immediately there. So I'm really into cooking. I've started taking up sewing. I I love to read, as most authors do, I would hope. And, having hobbies that I can't make money off of are really important because it takes the pressure off. And so being able to now, having been burnt out a few times, I can see the signs now.
Mhm.
It's like, okay, well, even though I know that I could finish this right now if I just worked 3 more hours, I also know that if I went and chilled for an hour, I could finish it in 1 hour, and then I will still have spent less time on it because I'll be refreshed. So, avoiding burnout and having strategies for that is, I think, the ultimate key to wearing many hats.
Absolutely. All you writers out there, definitely listen to that. Burnout is real. You'll hit that writer's block and you won't be able to get out of it for a while. So,
It'll getcha.
yeah. So, what advice would you give to creatives other than the burnout? who
Yeah.
feel torn between multiple passions?
I would say very often we're encouraged to pick one. And what I think that you should actually look into is how can you combine those passions to create something that feeds all those parts of your soul? And if you can't combine them, which ones would you like to pursue as a career and which ones would you like to keep sacred for yourself? Because there is this idea nowadays, especially in, the gig economy, the side hustle culture. Any skill or passion you have, you're encouraged to find a way to profit from it.
Mhm.
I would say that it is very important not to forget that some things need to just be for you. I am someone who is always looking for a way to make a new side hustle. I think I had 4 jobs last year at one point. Don't do that. Uh, but, what a lot of people in my life that I love and that care about me told me is, like, make sure that you are keeping some things exclusively for joy. And now more than ever, it is so important to find ways to experience joy. You should have something that feeds your soul, you should have something that helps your community, and you should have something that pays your rent. So I think finding a way to have one of each is super important, and also having the ability to kind of change the angle you're looking at your passions and see how they can feed into each other is a really great way of making sure that you're touching all of those aspects of your life.
Absolutely. Well said. So, what is up next for you?
Well, I've started working on a sequel. Um because, I wasn't sure if I was gonna do one, but I left enough things open and a lot of people were asking, and so, it's officially had its Joanna test, she's looked at it, she's given me some feedback, so it's on the way. Um, I don't know when that'll be done, but, in the meantime, I've actually been doing a lot of visual work for other authors. That's been really nice, being able to help other people have some visuals to pop up on their page and promote their work. And, I have a couple other side projects, other books that I think I might write on the side, maybe query traditionally. We'll see. Again, you gotta balance these things, and winter is kind of the time I take to rest as much as I can, so once spring hits, I'm gonna be on the racetrack, and when I'm working on something, you'll know about it. It'll be all over.
Awesome. Well, good luck to you with that. Where can the listeners find you?
Yes, okay, so, my primary online location is my Instagram, which is Riley Quinn Art. I'm also on TikTok at Riley Quinn Art Official and YouTube, just Riley Quinn Art. I'm gonna try and start posting more traditional art and writing advice on there soon. Not so much techniques, but ways to grow and take care of yourself as a creative in an age that is encouraging us to be as efficient as possible. And I also have a website, rileyquinnart.com. That's just portfolio work from my animation days, but you're free to check it out if you're curious because I do actually have some cool concept art from the development of Golden Gossamer on there. So that's where I am, and I hope you come check me out if you haven't before.
For sure. And I will make sure that all of your links are tagged in the show notes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I had a great time.
Yeah, me too. I love that Riley reminds us that creativity doesn't have to be limited. It can evolve, expand, and take shape in ways we never expected. Whether it's through writing, art, or something entirely your own, there's no single path to telling your story. If you'd like to connect with Riley or check out her work, her links are in the show notes. And as always, thank you for listening to Plot Twist Radio, where we explore the stories behind the storytellers and the soundtrack behind creativity.